gentlemen, youth across the continent of Africa, I welcome you all to IYDC's pre-maiden webinar session for the year 2021. I know last year was a very hectic and challenging year by all standards, but thank God we've come this far and we are in 2021. I know most of our plans were altered for the year 2020, and for that matter, the IYDC conference could not take off last year. This year, we are hoping it will come off, and for that matter, we are engaging our delegates and youth across the continent of Africa with relevant information and education, with sessions of this nature to ensure that we keep abreast with the times, we keep empowering ourselves. That is what empowerment is all about. That is what IYDC is all about. And this is brought to you by Innovation for Empowerment and Development. That is IFED Global, the organizers of International Youth Diplomacy Conference. Now, bonjour à tout le monde. Bienvenue à cette session pour organisée by IYDC. J'espère que tout le monde est en bonne santé. I hope everyone is in good health. Today, I'm not here alone. I'm joined by very phenomenal, very excellent speakers. But I'll not let the cat out of the bag now in regards to their profiles or their personality. I know you've seen the posters and everything out there, but in due time, we're going to tell you more about them. And today, they're going to speak on the topic or on the theme, generating innovative ideas for sustainable development. That is our theme for discussion for today's session. But before we even delve into our discussion, I would like to introduce our French translator. She's going to assist me. She's in the person of Gloria Amon. I'll call her to summarize the points that the speakers are going to put across so that we can all understand clearly everything that's being discussed. My name is Karley Mettle. I am going to be your moderator for about 2 hours long of discussion about the topic we have put across. Now, before we start, I would like to run through some housekeeping rules to ensure that we have a seamless flow of activities throughout this webinar session. First of all, you notice that you have been muted. All speakers or all participants have been muted. And so if you have any question or any information you would want to put across, I'll encourage that you kindly put them down, note them down, and in due time, our speakers will attend to them. You can also drop in a comment at the comment session in the chat room found at the bottom of the interface on your screen. So please take note of that. And also, I would encourage that you keep sharing this link so that friends who are not able to join via Zoom can join in via our Facebook page, that is IFED Global. It's same across all social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. I'd like to call upon our executive president, who is in the person of Mr. Echampo, to give us the opening prayer and of course, opening remarks. Then we'll go for a brief break and come back to introduce our speakers. Thank you very much.
Let's pray. Our Lord, God, we bless you for a day such as this, when young Africans have come together to receive, teach, create, develop, and implement new products, process or service with the aim of improving efficiency, effectiveness, Let's pray. Our Lord God, we bless you for a day such as this when young Africans have come together to receive keys to create, develop, and implement new products, process, or service with the aim of improving efficiency, effectiveness, or competitive advantage for the benefit of the continent Africa and the world at large. We commit the speakers, moderator, production team, and participants into your hands. Lord, take absolute control and have your way in us. Amen. This dubbed International Youth Diplomacy Conference. The purpose of this conference is to keep young Africans within our network connected virtually to build personal and career skills in readiness to fill the leadership gap in our society. Today's session is by two young Africans who have distinguished themselves convincingly in their areas of work. And I believe they have the keys to open doors for the young Africans of today. It won't surprise me if participants call for a second session with these same speakers. At this point, as I take my leave, I want to once again welcome and wish all of you the best, especially the speakers, Bernard Koku, Avle, and Lorraine Wright. These are your audience. Be with them and give them the keys that will unravel the unfortunate misinformation about innovation in Africa, and also draw their attention to what they actually need to do to take us out of the situation that we are in as of now. I believe by the end of this session, Bernard Avle will be so fulfilled because his long-awaited wishes of having a passport office without long queues and having a better transport system will work out for him. Since some young Africans will come up with ideas that would take out these problems that Africa faces without the need of being faced. I also believe Lorraine Wright will leave an idea with some explanations which will change and impact the socioeconomic lives of people, as well assist persons of how they can manage time with innovation to do more in their normal endeavors. So I wish you all the best, and let's enjoy this session of webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Ichampotutu. He's the Executive President of International Youth Diplomacy by Avle Global. That's I realized it was a very appropriate one, especially in the current times in which we find ourselves. I believe it's very critical and crucial and very timely to discuss a topic of this nature, because when we talk of sustainable ideas, we talk of ideas in the first place. In 1903, we had the Wright brothers who innovated the first aeroplane that have sustained us our mode of transport globally up to date. And we also have Thomas Edison, who generated the electric bulb, which we keep using up to date. And bringing it all the way down to Africa, I did a bit of research, and I found out from the Global Innovative Index that in sub-Saharan Africa, we have about 10 top innovative countries, which include countries like Kenya, Mauritius, Malawi, South Africa, what have you. And they have brought about some very notable innovations to the part of the world in which we find ourselves, that's Africa. But it saddened my heart because I did not find Ghana on that list, because Mauritius, for instance, Ghana had its independence over a little about a decade to Mauritius's independence. But we realize that Mauritius is far more advanced than Ghana. And that is something I believe our leaders would have to look at, because Ghana gained independence several years ago, and we cannot be listed amongst the top 10 innovative countries in Africa. That's rather sad. And you would realize that Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, our first president in Africa, brought about some innovations. You can, for instance, talk about the Tema motorway, which has sustained us this long. And even when we have to do some repair works to maintain this facility, it's not done to the best of, of abilities, which is also questionable. You would realize, thanks to social media, we have Facebook, we have platforms such as Zoom, which we are on now, which connects the entire globe together. So today, I believe on this platform, on this webinar session, we have Africans youth from different parts of Africa on this particular session. And these are all notable innovations that have brought us this far. Now the question is, are all innovations relevant in our times? Are all innovations sustainable enough for development? And if even they are great innovations, are our leaders able to help us sustain those innovations to stand the test of time? These are certain questions, some of the questions we will be asking our speakers. Our speakers have already prepared. They have wonderful presentations, excellent and insightful ones for that matter. And I won't do too much of the talking. I would leave them to present to us their presentations, and from there, I'm sure we can bring on board our questions for them. I would leave this for Gloria to kindly interpret for a few minutes, and then I'll introduce the speakers. So can we have Gloria do the first interpretation, please? Thank you. Hello, Gloria, are you there? Hello, Gloria. Okay, I think, okay, so Gloria is on. Hello, Gloria. All right, so I guess we're having a bit of a challenge getting Gloria on board. So I'll quickly introduce our first speaker, and hopefully we can have her interpret after he does his presentation. After he does his presentation. Our first speaker for this webinar session on the topic generating innovative ideas for sustainable development is one very affable and phenomenal personality by all standards. He is a Ghanaian youth, born and bred in Ghana. He calls himself a fully breaded Legonite, because he was born in Legon, attended the university primary school in Legon, and also took his first degree in the University of Ghana, Legon campus, where he had an undergraduate degree in economics, of course, with a distinct class. He also undertook his master's in marketing from the Warwick University in the United Kingdom as a Chevening scholar. That should tell you a lot about him. He is a media personality. He's a sensational broadcast journalist, a multiple award-winning one for that matter. And he is the host of City FM's morning show. That is the City FM breakfast show on City FM 97.3 FM. And also he hosts the Point of View on City TV, which is one of Ghana's most influential media houses. Now, that is 2019, November 2019, he presented a speech to the university graduating students in which he really, really touched them. I watched the speech and I was touched myself. He made a statement that Legon gave him 4 eyes. Now, when he said 4 eyes, I actually thought it was his second pair of eyes, that's his glasses like mine. But he broke down the various categories of lessons he obtained from Legon, which gave him the 4 eyes. And one prolific thing or phenomenal thing I got from his speech was the fact that he said Legon taught him how to find solutions to problems. And you would observe from all his presentations as an international moderator of conferences, from his moderating his radio station program and everything he does, that he is indeed a problem solver. I think from the year 2016, he spearheaded the Galamsey campaign to reduce the illegal mining of minerals in Ghana. At this juncture, without much ado, I'd like to invite our first speaker, Mr. Bernardino Koku Avle. Can we give a virtual round of applause to him as he takes over? I can't hear you, but I'm still clapping. I hope you hear mine. Welcome, Bernard.
Thank you. I hope you guys can hear me. Great. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm sure I have just 20 minutes or 15 minutes, so I can just go straight into what I have to say. Great. So now, thank you for that great introduction. I want to just quickly talk about this organization. This is not the first time I've spoken at IYDC. I think it's a very good and important institution. And those of you who've taken the trouble to be here, this will be worth your while. Now, if this is just the pre-IYDC conference, then I can't wait to see what the main conference will be about. So I think it's really powerful. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is to share a few ideas about innovation and ideas. I have a few slides, but if you don't have access to them, it's not a problem. You can just listen to what I want to say. So the first thing I'll say is that innovation is something everybody is talking about, but very few people are doing. So one of the most innovative scholars in the world, Professor Etiahini Jima, he said he did a research a few years ago in Africa for thousands of business executives. And he asked them the importance of innovation. And I hope you guys can hear me. Yes. Good. He asked them the importance of innovation. And about 95% of them said, yes, innovation is very good. Then he asked them another question. How many of you are actually practicing innovation? Only 15% could honestly say they were practicing it. So the thing about innovation, ideas, and all these things, they are nice buzzwords, but there's no point talking about something that you have no interest in implementing. So first thing I'll say, when we are talking about innovation and innovative ideas, what is it? Innovation is significant, meaningful, positive change. Significant, meaningful, positive change. But the definition I prefer is that innovation occurs when a good idea is implemented successfully. When a good idea is implemented successfully. Now, I may want to share my screen for those of you who want to take notes. So if the administrator would allow me, I will share my screen so that you can see what I'm talking about, if that's allowable. So whilst let me just do that. So innovation occurs when you apply an idea successfully. So it's not just having the idea, it's the application of the idea. This is very important. Okay. Now, I also think in our context as Africa, innovation is a process of making our continent a better place, right? And I'm sure there's a big question I would answer at the end of the presentation. Why, with so many problems, we are not the most innovative? Because there's a relationship between problems and solutions, but that's a different issue. I'll come to that at the end. So there's a relationship between an idea and innovation. The idea must be implemented to be seen as innovation. I have many ideas. I have an idea that one day no African who needs medicine will lack that medicine, but that's just an idea, and we can find a way of providing it. But until I implement it, I have not really innovated. So guys, let's move from simply ideation to implementation. One of my very good friends from secondary school, and also one of my friends now, Bright Simmons, who created a company called Pedigree, says a solution is merely a packaged idea. So that means the idea cannot remain on its own. It must be thought through, it must be tested, then it is implemented. So this is very important. That's the packaging. It's not just having an idea. So for an idea to become a solution, it has to go through certain processes. Now, what I want to do is, because I'm a journalist, I interview a lot of people. I think by the time I finish my journalism life, I would have interviewed probably 30,000 people. Because even this month, I think I interviewed about 3 people a day, and I do a show. This is just radio, right? 5 days a week. So that's about 15 people a week. If I add TV, which is about 2 people or 3 people a week, I interview so many people. So I'm coming to this from 3 perspectives. From my own journey working in a company that is innovative. Number 2, from the perspective of interviewing a lot of innovative people. And number 3, from an African who's not happy with where the continent is. So those are the 3 perspectives I'm coming from. Now, I'm going to share with you 10 insights I've gleaned about innovation and ideas based on these 3 experiences, based on my own work at City FM and City TV, based on the people I interact with in interviews and conferences, and also being an African citizen who is not happy. So these are 10 innovation insights I'm going to share with you. First one, innovators believe that everything can be improved. Now, if you don't believe that something can be improved, you can't be innovative. So whether you're talking about an innovative idea, whether it's a concept or whether it's tangible, everybody who does something that improves society has to believe that things can improve. So why are we doing television? We believe we can offer better programs. We believe TV and radio and media can improve the way people think. Therefore, it's not just making money, it's about improving African minds. Every innovator believes that something can be improved. Now, if you think there's no point, then you can't be innovative. Number 2, innovation is beyond making new things. It's not just creating a new product. It's about enhancing people's experiences. So a lot of times, somebody sits in his house, he has an idea and he thinks, wow, I'm going to implement it. That may be great, but it has to start from people's reality. Because innovation is not about you, it's about the people who benefit from it. I'll come back to this point. Now, this is a very powerful point. Discontent is the catalyst for innovation. And for this, I'll quote 2 people you all know. The first person is Plato. Plato is one of the 3 Greek philosophers. He says, necessity is the mother of invention. That's what Plato said. Then Thomas Edison says, discontent is the first necessity of progress. What does that mean? If you are happy, satisfied, and at ease, if everything is happening in order, there can be progress. It also suggests that now that we are in a pandemic, now that things are very uncertain, now that we are in a complex world, this is the best time to innovate. When things were normal, when things were stagnant, people didn't have the impetus to innovate. So discontent is the catalyst for innovation. This is very important. Now, the reason why innovation is more talked about than done is this point, point number 4. Even though everybody knows it's good, it's hard, it's risky, and it's uncomfortable. Very, very hard, very risky. This is a very powerful point. Number 5, innovation seeks meaning before money. A lot of people come to me with ideas. They call me, I want to do this, I want to do that. The first question I ask them is why? Now, if the why is wrong, the what and the how cannot be right. If the why are you in media? Why are you organizing this conference? Why are you trying to create a paperless office? Why are you trying to create an electric car? Are you trying to create an electric car because you want to make another $1 billion? Or you think that where fossil fuels are and what they are doing to the world, we can't keep driving cars based on fossil fuel? Why do you want to create the world's largest search engine? Is it to dominate the world, or because you think work can be improved? Innovation seeks meaning before money. This is very, very important for Africans because we are trained to start innovation with planning, business idea, concept, profit, market. These things are important, but trust me, you seek meaning. We believe in our media organization that we can enlighten Africans through entertainment. So even if we are doing a program like Keyboard Idol, where kids are playing the keyboard, we are telling Africans that young Africans can be great, they can be best at what they do. We are enlightening and entertaining them at the same time. The adverts will come, that's the money, but meaning before money, very important. Now, a few things about innovation. A lot of people are always trying to put things in boxes. So is innovation sudden or is it incremental? It can be both. That means you can simply improve the way you do something very simple, like how you manage your radio show, or you can do something completely disruptive by creating a podcast and putting it out there and vitiating the need for a radio show in the first place. And there are many examples of this. So we're saying that an innovative idea doesn't have to be something completely out of the blue. It can be a better way of doing the same thing. I hope that's making sense so far. This other point is also important. A lot of people think that innovation has to come from the managing director or the boss or the large company or the government. That used to be true in the past, but it can also be like the example Karley gave, Avle and Lorraine Wright, the guys who created the plane. They were just two individuals. So it's upstream, because actually, a company doesn't become innovative by just creating an innovation lab. A company becomes innovative by getting innovative people. So innovation can be upstream, meaning that it can be individuals innovating for large companies to benefit. It can also be large companies innovating for individuals to benefit. This is what I mean by this point. Next point. This is a very interesting point. You require humility to be innovative because your idea must come from people, your observation, your research. So you can't just get up and say, I'm Adam Smith or I am Isaac Newton. I'm sitting under an apple tree. I see the apple drop. I'm going to create something new. That could work, but usually it comes from asking questions. If you are a company that creates things, or you are a government, or you are a business, the people who use your products, ask them the question. It comes from humbling yourself to know. But having acquired that information, you need an arrogance to implement. Because if you're just humble, oh, I want to hear what you can do. When you listen to people, a lot of people will tell you it cannot be done. Most of the things that we benefit from, somebody said it was not necessary. In fact, somebody said he couldn't see a market for computers beyond 5. Meanwhile, I have more than 3 or 4 computers in my office. So that person who created a computer was arrogant. He defied what the naysayers said. But he started by being humble, doing market research, asking questions, putting themselves. I always tell journalists, if you want to be a good journalist, don't just sit in your office and do stories. Sit in a trotro. Go to the market. Go to a hospital and join the queue. Don't call the doctor you know and cross the queue. If you can live the experience of your listeners and your viewers, every day you'll be relevant to them. So it requires that humility. But having acquired the information, you need the arrogance to implement. And because of what I just said, innovators are more detectives than fortune tellers. It's not just prophesying. Oh, I think one day we can sit in a car that flies. So let's just create one. It's more about looking at investigating all the reasons why things are not going well. Then you implement things or your insight. So that's what I mean. They are more detectives. They are inquiring, they ask questions. And the last point, innovation doesn't have to be perfect. Let me give you a quick example of an innovative company. Bryce Simmons' company, Pedigree, is an amazing company. In many parts of the world, medicines that people need are counterfeited. This solution was developed in Africa. It's implemented in Kenya. It's implemented in Nigeria, in Egypt, and other places. What Bryce Simmons and his team at Pedigree have done is to create a solution from Africa, which even the Western world is behind. Now, if you go to any Western medicine shop, you can buy a medicine and not really know if it's counterfeit or not. But Bryce Simmons and his team, even if you are in a village, in certain African countries, when you buy the medicine, they put a code on the medicine. You can send a text for free, and within 10 seconds, you get a response that this medicine is genuine. This is innovation. He didn't just create it. He looked at people's experiences with fake medicine. Trust me, if you have a relative who's sick and they buy medicine which is fake and the medicine kills them, it's a serious motivation to solve a problem. So this is a type of solution that Wright and the guys at Pedigree, who are all, by the way, very young people. They are young Africans they've created. The other solutions, I have a friend whose company uses plastic waste to create pavement blocks. He believes he can pave all untarred roads in Ghana. All he needs is for to bring that plastic to him. He will mix it with the right sand and clay and create pavement blocks. It's called Nailplast. It's a company that started small but can do something. So a lot of these ideas start from trying to solve a problem. So the question is, how come Africa, with all our discomfort, how come we are not able to be more innovative than we should be? I think the answer is simple. When people are in a bad situation, a lot of times they normalize the situation. They accept the situation as being the status quo. So this is my closing. We have to refuse the reality we have to be innovative. We have to say that 50% of African women are not well educated. This is not right. X% don't have a change of underwear. This is not right. Somebody has to change it. It's a young continent. A lot of our kids are not in school. If you accept that as normal, you can't be innovative. So my closing remark is that for us to be innovative, we must say we refuse the status quo. The things that people have told us are normal cannot be normal. Now, once we have that mindset of refusing to accept what we've been given as our reality, I think our innovative juices will be stirred up. I'll pause here because I know I have another presenter who is also going to say some nice things, and then hopefully during the Q&A, we can interact. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Bernard, for that excellent presentation. We're really grateful for inspiring us and enlightening us more about this perspective of innovation. I believe that very soon our questions will come up and then we can hear more answers from you with what's on the mind of the various Africans on this webinar session. Thank you again, Bernard. At this point, I would like to invite our next speaker. I have her profile here, and she is someone I've known for about 5 years now. She blows my mind anytime I get to know what she's up to in this part of our world. She is a British-born Ghanaian, based in the UK for that matter, and she happens to be a director at UBS Investment Bank and a co-founder of the Young Professionals Power List Network, YPP. She's the founder and multi-award winning, she's the founder of the multi-award winning University Gospel Choir of the Year, which has not only rapidly climbed up the career ladder in her young age, but has established a UK-wide competition celebrating the talents of university students across the country. Having grown up in Southwest London, Brixton, she spent her time between Zurich and London working full-time for UBS in Switzerland. Having attained straight A's at the A level in the university, she studied information systems with a sandwich year at Grinnell University, and also has become an IT consultant and business leader, project manager for that matter. Whilst her peers searched for roles for their year in industry via the internal career service, Lorraine thought outside the box by searching independently. She managed to land herself an internship in project management with the Volkswagen head office. Graduating in 2009 with a first class, Lorraine was eager to begin work at Accenture. Unfortunately, due to the recession, things took a different course and she was unable to start her role for another year. Lorraine took to the opportunity to work as an IT project administrator or manager at a small technology company in London and obtained her Prince 2 project management qualification. Upon returning to the UK, Lorraine took up her graduate position with Accenture, where she was rapidly promoted to a consultant within a year. In her client-facing role, she was subsequently employed by her clients. According to Lorraine, when I first entered Volkswagen, I wanted to run before I could walk, simply because I had 3 A's at A level. I remember one of my first telling offs by my manager. According to her, he sat me down and said, "You need to learn to walk before you can run." Now, some of the lessons Lorraine shares with us about how to rise fast in business include staying close to decision makers. It also includes becoming a shareholder where possible and taking yourself out of your comfort zone. So this is what has helped Lorraine rise very fast in her career as a youth, as a director of such a very prominent and influential bank in Switzerland. And today she's also a serial entrepreneur. She has a line of businesses in Ghana in which she's doing very well at. I believe as time goes on, we're going to hear about Lorraine. Without much ado and without taking, I would invite Lorraine Wright to give us her presentation. Let's give her another virtual round of applause. Welcome, Lorraine.
Hi, thank you, Karley, and thank you all for the team for inviting me and having me on this. I hope everyone can hear me okay. Give me a nod if anyone. Brilliant, fantastic. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and excellent job, Bernard. A lot of synergies between what you had communicated to everyone together with what I'm going to do. So I think I will try my best not to repeat some of those concepts, but rather work around it and look at other alternative means for us all to be innovative. So thank you, Karley, firstly, for the introduction. I'm even surprised that you managed to find out all that information about myself, because that was way more than I even gave you. But thank you very much for the honors of allowing me to be here. So I hope everyone can see my screen okay. Give me a nod if you can see my screen. Brilliant, okay. So Karley has done the introduction, so I won't speak too much about myself, but it's on the screen now, just so you understand the context of where I come from. I want to be very clear. I have an external view. I initially had an external view of Africa. I was born and bred in the UK before I moved back to Ghana, although I am British-born Ghanaian. So my context, or rather my perspective, might be a little bit different, and it obviously adds to the conversation that we're having here today. So, what is an innovative idea? And Bernard had the great, fantastic job of explaining about innovation. And I'm going to work around it a little bit. It was one of my favorite quotes that I heard from Mark Zuckerberg, the founder and CEO of Facebook. Your goal should never be starting a company. Focus on the change you wish to make. And Bernard did allude to some of these things around, the value you want to create, the impact you're making. Think about that as opposed to the actual idea itself. Another quote that I absolutely love, when I was studying my MBA at Oxford, there was one term that always used to come about. The future is already here, it's just unevenly distributed. What that means is that innovation is happening across the world in different speeds, right? And it just so happens that there could be an innovative idea that's been implemented in China or Botswana or Australia, or wherever it may be, but it might not be in that particular place where you are at that moment. So innovation is happening all around you, all around us. It's just we're living in the future, but the future has not yet come to us in certain areas. So I'm really very, very fascinated about that statement. But innovation, Bernard again has given us a really, really great definition. In my mind, I think he made it very clear that it's not just an idea, it's something that needs to be implemented. And in other words, the definition that I very much love is having a product, a process, or a business concept being activated, i.e. implemented, as Bernard put it, in a certain context. But the most important thing is creating the value. What is that experience you're going to create? What is that change you're going to do? How's it going to impact that person's life? What need is it going to fulfill? Who's going to want it? That is about value creation, which is very important. With any business, it's all about ideas and execution. They do say that in any business, it's 1% idea and 99% execution. So we're all about talking about innovation, but I'm really glad that Bernard really honed in on the point that it's about implementation as well. You can have an idea, but there's nothing without implementation. And it's clear, an idea is 1%. Execution is 99%. So that's just something just to think about as you think about your innovative journey. So the need of innovation and ideas in Africa today. For me, innovation is essential. It's all about helping us to build capabilities within Africa at the country level, but also the business level as well. It's all about how we promote technological change in a small and both small and large enterprises. It's all about how we create jobs. And it's all about how we create some of the challenges that exist. Bernard's already spoken about some of the challenges that exist, and also in the welcoming speech, there's a lot of mention of some of the challenges and the narratives we wish to change on the continent. But a lot of these challenges hit us in the face. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the challenges that I've highlighted on the screen today. Youth and unemployment, Across Africa in 2050, there's 40% of the global youth will be in Africa. 60% of Africa's unemployed are between 15 and 24. That means we have a significant and serious youth unemployment issue. We have issues around food security. You know, it is said that by 2050, the African population will be 1.6 billion people, but we're unable to feed all those people. It's projected that we might not be able to feed all those people. We have challenges with feeding people today. There is a lack of access to affordable food. What are we doing about it? There's housing issues. There's lack of access to affordable housing. There's crime and violence. There is sustainability and climate change issues, equal opportunity issues, effective regulation of change. There are a number of challenges that exist across Africa. What makes these challenges, or what makes Africa unique, is because we don't face these challenges in isolation. A lot of them are interlinked and there are deeper levels. I mean, you know, the fact that there is issues with food security is because there are underlying issues relating to maybe, you know, investment and other areas like that. So Africa as a continent has a very diverse list of challenges. And innovation, as Bernard mentioned, when you're not happy with something, when you cannot be settled in your heart or in your day-to-day going about, that something needs to change, that is where you can make effective change. So how do we make those changes? What kind of things can be done? Africa's future depends on minds and not minds. I think very early on, I think there was a reference by the president of PRE-IYDC that, you know, there is a lot of, there is mining activities and things like that going on. Outside seems, we are all very clear, Africa is very rich in resources, but we are also very rich in our minds. And we really need to start to put our minds to work. Now, here, there are a list of examples and innovations that we can solve. Youth unemployment, how do we create jobs? How do we invest in our youth? How do we mentor them? How do we train them? Agriculture development. I am actually the head of sales for a very, very rapidly growing startup in the agriculture space. Now, what we do is called Grow For Me, and I could show you our website if we get some time through this. But essentially what we do is we enable anyone, wherever you are, to become a digital farmer. You can essentially invest in crops. We will grow on your behalf and you can make profit whilst also implementing, or rather also impacting on benefiting the lives of smallholder farmers. And we're bringing that to people's laptops, to their living rooms, to their beds, so they can just purchase from as little as, you know, the equivalent of $15. They can purchase just a small little crop and it can grow and it can really change lives here. These are some of the disruptions and some of the digitalizations of very, very old industries, and looking at how we can really bring them to the forefront to enable everyone to have access, and helping other people to think about new innovations and new ways that we can have access to these opportunities. Housing issues exist. So how do we get more affordable housing? Mikasa, although for those of you that are in Ghana, Mikasa is still considered one of the most innovative platforms across Africa. You know, bridging the gap between people that are looking for housing to the people that can, you know, are offering housing. There are also innovative solutions that are out there that help people to build housing in affordable ways. And Bernard has mentioned very, very great examples of people that are recycling and reusing plastics and things like that to do things. Crime and violence, what are we doing in the criminal justice system? What are we doing to make sure that it's effective and rehabilitation is working and we're wiping out bribery and corruption? These things may sound too big. They could be sounded at the governance level, but these are the areas and opportunities for us to innovate, because these are where I am unsettled. These are where the areas that I don't feel comfortable. When it comes to effective regulation of trades, there was some work that's going on. A lot of you, I'm sure, have heard about the free trade area that is now kicking off across Africa, creating that single market. That's deepening the economic integration of what's happening across the continent. There are opportunities there. Financial market and governance. It is known that across Africa, 70% of people are unbanked, meaning they do not have access to a bank account. What are we doing about making sure that these people have access to financial institutions? There was a lot of things and progress that's been made when it comes to mobile money. There is one of the most innovative solutions that came out of Kenya called M-Pesa. You know, that attracted millions and millions of dollars of investment because of an innovative solution. People did not know how they'd be able to share or send money to and from. So they leverage the power of mobiles. And, you know, across Africa, mobile penetration is more than 50%. There is opportunities there. You know, so how do we think about access to finance as well? Can we leverage crowdfunding? I am doing agriculture on a crowdfunding scale. So we crowdfund for investment to put that into agriculture. There are people that are doing similar initiatives when it comes to housing developments. There's a platform called Koku, which is being established by a Nigerian guy. And what he does is he crowdfunds so people can build property. And when those properties are sold, you can reap your rewards in terms of the returns on the investment. So innovative ideas are going on to solve some of these challenges that really hit us. And Bernard spoke a lot about that. There was a change, you make a change where there is issues. You know, you cannot, in his closing remarks, I'm paraphrasing here. If you're not settled or you can't accept something, change it. So the need for innovative ideas are sustainable and necessary for development. For me, there is no innovation without failure. And I think the reason why people compare China and Africa together a lot is because of the way we think. But the reason why China has progressed a lot faster than Africa, and I'm comparing a country here to a continent, but it has progressed because and become one of the dominant forces across the world, because they understand that with innovation, there will be failure. But in Africa, for some reason, and this is a narrative that needs to change, that if you make a failure, you are tarnished. In Ghana, a lot of people might know about when men's gold came about and there was corruption or whatever it may be, you know, there is an industry that's now tarnished. It's very hard for people to now come out of that. But we need to get into a way of thinking, or we need to build an ecosystem that enables people to accept failure, but to learn from the failure and do better and innovate more, do incremental change to do better. You know, when it comes to financing, venture capitalists, private equity firms, and other financial institutions, they actually understand that 1 in 10 of their investments will be successful. So it means that 9 will fail. They understand that. So we need to get into a habit of understanding that failure is not a bad thing. And I think Bernard again made it very clear when he said, you know, when it comes to ideas, it's about how successful it's implemented, which is absolutely right. But we also need to understand that it's nothing. Let's give you an example. Facebook was successful because of its predecessors. Before Facebook, there was MySpace, there was Hi-Fi, there was these other platforms that failed. So innovation, and Bernard again has said it, it could be radical, it could be one time, or it could be incremental. You can build upon certain things that you've seen fail in the past and make that successful. One important thing about change and ideas and innovation is whatever you do not visualize will not materialize. So if you've seen an issue and you want to fix it, you need to see that, visualize it, write it down, and that will materialize. And that just gives you the internal motivation to do something. So when it comes to making sure we have sustainable ideas, it's not about just providing new products. You can develop the best new phone, for example, but you need to understand that we are developing, or you are implementing a solution into an environment that has deeply rooted cultures, beliefs, societies, actions, experiences. So what are you doing to transform that individual's mind, a community or institution? People like Apple have done a fantastic job at this. You know, they have really done well to innovate because they might do incremental change. If you notice I don't know what iPhone we're on at the moment, if it's 12 or 15 or whatever it is, because I'm a Samsung user, but they incrementally change. And they do it in a way to also transform an individual. Why? Because I also have a MacBook Pro. Why? Because I also have AirPods. Why? Because they're building an ecosystem and transforming things incrementally. How do you scale to gain your market adoption? This is how you think about sustainability. You know, you need to think about scaling. You can't think about just being in one environment, in one context. You always need to think about how you're going to build up from that. And also build your reputation. It's all about continuous improvement. Your investment, if you're looking for investment, is all going to come about because of your reputation. Investors, and there's a terminology in the entrepreneurial finance or the corporate finance world, where they say they back the jockey and not the horse. which means that the person riding the horse is the person they're putting the money behind. There's a lot of challenges that exist in Africa where they say there's a lack of access to finance. Why? Because foreign investors are scared of what's going to happen when they give you money. So we have to build our reputation on the continent that we can do things, we can make it successful. And it's only then that we show that it can be successful where people will come and invest their money, because they're backing the jockey, not necessarily the idea. So your investment will come because they're looking at you. They're looking at what do you do? What have you done in the past? How have you improved? How have you laid out the problem? How have you laid out the solution? Rather than the fact that it's an idea, because anyone can come up with that idea, but it's all about the execution. Now, Bernard has said this already. It's all about increment. You could do innovation in two ways, and I've got that here on the screen. Incremental innovation, or it can be radical innovation as well. You know, you can build on existing dominant systems that exist today, or you can completely disrupt it, make the old solutions obsolete. If anyone on this line remembers Kodak, the old cameras, that completely went obsolete because we started to use our phones, we started to use other digital means. So now I don't know when I last saw a disposable camera, because that area has been completely disrupted. When it comes to how to identify if a challenge is worth solving, ask yourself, would it drive value? Would it make an impact? And we've spoken a lot about that already. Is there a market or a demand? So whenever you're coming up with an idea and you're looking at innovation, is there a demand for what you are delivering? Are there funding opportunities for it? And I say this, although it might be quite controversial, but to be fair, you're more likely, it's probably easier for you if you build an idea that's in the area or sweet spot for finance. Right now, there's a lot of money that's being plugged into digitalization. There's a lot of money that's being plugged into agriculture. You know, look at where there are funding opportunities going on and build the innovation in there as well. And it could make your lives a lot easier. What is the value that you're driving from that innovation? Do you have the skills and capabilities, or do you need to build a team around you that can support that? And can it scale, and is it sustainable? These are key things to think about. So how do you overcome the challenges that exist when it comes to generating innovative ideas? Today, everyone wants to be an entrepreneur. Everyone wants to develop the next unicorn or the moonshot business. Everyone wants to develop the next Uber. You know, you go across Africa, there are so many different variations of Uber, you know, but there are challenges that people face in order to put those things those innovations into practice. There are problems of information. So when you've developed something, how do you know where the next opportunities are? You know, there's problems to access to strategic partners. You know, some people find it very difficult to partner with each other on the continent. There's problems of control. How do you protect your knowledge, your assets, your value? There's problems of legitimacy. How do people know you to be credible? You know, how can you be taken seriously by stakeholders or potential investors? There's problems of market creation. How do you connect with other people and develop more things together? How do you do something collectively? You know, maybe public-private partnerships. These kind of problems exist on the continent, but we need to find ways and means to overcome these challenges. So I've got a few ideas before I wrap up in terms of how we can overcome that. And already Bernard has said some of this, and I'm glad that we're in synergies and we're in sync here. Challenge the status quo. A lot of us are from an African mentality, and I hate to generalize here because I know our cultures are very different across the continent. So I'll use my context of growing up in a Ghanaian household. In the Ghanaian household, typically, we are taught to just accept the status quo. If my mum tells me the sky is red, I will believe the sky is red, you know, because we are taught not to answer back or challenge our elders or our superiors. But I'm saying to you, when it comes to innovation, we have to challenge the status quo. We have to ask questions. We can't just accept things for face value. We have to learn to ask questions. I remember when I was applying for my executive MBA at Oxford, I used that rationale as my reason for going to study my MBA. I said, I want to learn to ask better questions, because it's only when you start to ask better questions can you get what? Better answers. Do you know which way you need to go to develop things? Know your market, know the terrain that you're operating on. You know, understand who are the incumbents. In other words, who are the existing players in the game? Who are the newcomers? Think about who are you connected to? Build your network as well. Map out your existing ties. Who are you connected to in terms of your second degree connections? Build a base of actions. And you know, it's actually funny when you think about it, where your networks intersect is actually where there's actually potential value creation opportunities, you know? So these are things that you can think about when it comes to overcoming some of the challenges that exist in Africa. So finally, how do you go about implementing these innovative ideas? Put yourself in the environment. There's an example that I always use. Someone told me once when I first started to come to Ghana and I was stressing myself thinking I wanted to come up with a business idea. Someone sat me down and said to me, you know, you need to just absorb the environment that you're in. They said Isaac Newton, when he discovered gravity, he was in his back garden and an apple dropped from a tree. And he just got, and you know, it said that he discovered gravity or uncovered gravity. But if you look at the word uncovered, the word UN is before covered, meaning you have released something. You have taken something off, something that was there before. You have uncovered it. So I personally believe there's nothing new under the sun, and I'm a Christian, and the Bible says that. But there are ways for you to incrementally improve things, and there's ways for you to identify things by putting yourself in that context and that environment. So that will enable you to start to think about or rethink existing systems, rethink existing value chains. Look at assembling resources, people around you to help create that solution. One important thing, I know Bernard mentioned this as well, test out the idea. You know, don't just launch an innovative solution to the market, but test it out, make sure that it works. Do that on a smaller scale. When we first launched Grow For Me, which is the crowdfunding platform for agriculture, we did a small scale experiment to get people to invest into pineapple farming. And we were able to see, okay, if someone gives us some money, and those people could be from abroad, and we were able to partner with farmers, pineapple farmers in Ghana, and we were able to help them to grow more, how much returns can we give our investors? And we were able to test it on a small scale before we launched. So think about that, you know, build your reputation as well and gain your traction incrementally as well. But you can also play the Clubhouse game. Now, I'm sure a lot of people that are on the line right now, a number of you are familiar with Clubhouse. I am right now having FOMO, the fear of missing out, because I'm a Samsung user and I'm not an iPhone user. So I am not able to get onto Clubhouse, but right now everyone is speaking about Clubhouse. iPhone users are able to invite just 2 people to join the platform. They are using a very innovative strategy to get people on their platform. So think about that. Think about how you can give people the fear of missing out as well when you're coming up with your ideas. But other than that, look at your finances, build your finance. So when you are looking at building ideas and implementing them, when I have raised money, and I've raised over 6 figures for ideas that I'm working on. And they would always ask, what have you put in? So VCs and private equity firms and other people will look at what is the money that you have put in there? What's your skin in the game? What's your sweat equity? And that is when they're able to then match it or put in more, because they want to know what have you put in. They're not going to invest in something unless you've put something in. So a lot of entrepreneurs today want to leave their full-time jobs or think that money can just, you know, be invested in their business. I always urge people when you're just starting out and you're looking for new ideas to work on, stay in your full-time job and start building up here as a side hustle. And that's the way you're going to start to build your reputation. You're going to be able to plug in some money and investors will come and say, what have you done? And you'll be able to show them what have you done. When it comes to larger scale things and initiatives, how are you going to build capacity and infrastructure? You need to think about that. You can't just launch an idea. You need to think about what is the capacity around it and what is the infrastructure around it. And then also when it comes to innovation, you're disrupting something. So you ultimately need to unbuild the way someone was thinking before. So how are you doing that? You know, it's really Apple. I use Apple as an amazing example, or even mobile money. A lot of people are now they're so used to mobile money, you know, but how do you unbuild the way that people were used to operating before? And one of the strategies that I absolutely love, and again, I learned this through business school, is using a framework called claim, demarcate, and control. You might not necessarily have your product yet, you might just have an idea, but there are ways and means for you to claim the market, demarcate it, and control it even before you've launched your product. And Apple do this again very well. They're able to do these, the CEO will go and do a pitch and talk about the new idea that's coming up, and he'll just do it just to his employees. Then there will be a leak, a supposed leak. Then everyone will know this is coming out. So they've claimed the market even before the product has been launched. So think about how you can do that in order to just claim the market. So there are things, everyone keeps saying, oh, what can I do? Even my product is not yet ready. There are things you can do to still claim the market, to demarcate the market boundaries, and then claim that market and create the value even before you create the product itself. So those are my final remarks. So thank you. I'm looking forward to discussion and some of the questions that might come up through this presentation. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lorraine, for that profound presentation. You've enlightened us to different perspectives about generating innovative ideas for sustainable development. We're really glad you've spoken on this topic. And right about now, we'll have our translation in French. Gloria Amu is on standby to do that. Hello, Gloria, are you here? Hello, Gloria. I think we're having a challenge reaching Gloria, the translation. So I would like us to zoom into the Q&A session of this webinar. Yeah. Right, so I'll move over to Bernard first. Hello, Bernard, are you around? Hello, do you still have Bernard?
Yes, Bernard is here. I've been unmuted now.
Thank you, Bernard. So, Bernard, from your profile, I observed that you've had an experience of both worlds in terms of education. I mean, you did your undergrad in Ghana and then your postgrad in the United Kingdom. And so having experienced education in both worlds, would you say that there's a need for a revamp of our educational system? Yes, to enable innovative ideas to be fostered, properly channeled and fostered and implemented, as you rightly said, especially in the field of entrepreneurship, because Lorraine stated in her presentation that everyone now wants to be an entrepreneur, everyone wants to do something on their own. Is our educational system allowing this, making this easy enough for potential entrepreneurs?
Thank you, Karley. That's a very great question. Like Lorraine said, I don't want to overgeneralize, but what I will say is that my undergraduate study was in Ghana and my postgraduate study was in the UK, Warwick Business School. Now, fundamentally, business school education and a master's degree is different from an undergraduate degree. So it will not be very fair to compare. What I will say, though, is that even in both Ghana and the UK, I noticed that we focus a lot on preparing people for the real world. Whereas where I think we should prepare people for is to put them in the real world. So what I mean is, for example, I've done journalism for 20 years. Now, I started as a 19-year-old undergraduate student broadcaster. I didn't go and study the theory of journalism. I spent 4 years experimenting and making lots of mistakes. So by the time I finished university in 2004, and CTFM employed me as a 23-year-old, within 6 months, I could host the morning show because I had spent 4 years making mistakes. Now, there are people who go to journalism school for 4 years, but have to be trained for another 2, 3, 4 years before they can host a morning show. So this is not even a Ghana problem. I think generally, because of where the world is, education institutions should give people more contextual training. It's like reading about things. Mike Tyson says everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So put people in situations where they'll be punched in the face more regularly. But we like to give people a lot of planning and preparation and theories. And that's great. But I think that if you have 10 minutes, spend maybe 4 minutes in the classroom and 6 minutes outside. That's what I would say about education everywhere. And in the African context, we need probably 8 or 9 minutes outside the classroom, because the real change you want to make is not in the classroom. So that would be my answer, Karley.
Thank you very much for that answer, Bernard. And I believe that he's done justice to the question. And so I'll just move on to Lorraine. Lorraine, so you have recently moved to Ghana, sorry, and you didn't school in Ghana, but I believe that you have an experience of both cultures, and you did mention rightly in your submission that our culture goes a long way to form part of our ability to even generate ideas and implement them. So how can you tell us the disparity between the two cultures? Hello? Yes, so Lorraine, I'm asking if your experience in the United Kingdom, the British culture you have grown with, has in a way better affected your ability to generate creative ideas, innovative ideas, and implement them as compared to the Ghana culture?
I think it's a really, really great question. I'm sorry, I think the administrator muted me, so I couldn't unmute myself. But I think with the cultural differences, and again, Bernard has alluded to some of these, and I apologize for the people. I see some questions there around obviously French-speaking countries as well. But using my own examples, the British culture, or rather, let me use the US system. I remember sitting in business school, and I would be gobsmacked by the time that a lecturer has asked a question, an American person has answered it. And for some reason, I just feel like their education system brings them up in a way to challenge the authorities. We know what happened when it came to, Donald Trump and everything like going on. Everyone had an opinion, and they gave their people the freedom of speech. Whereas somewhere like Ghana, for example, we are limited to what we can say. We are, and our culture, and culturally, what I found is that, again, I said this before, we are taught not to answer back to our superiors. We're taught not to challenge. And I think if there could be a way that in our educational system, they are teaching people where we're being educated to challenge, I think that would help us a lot more. Now, when it comes to both of the areas, if one was better than the other, I actually think it's much better to be in an environment like Ghana or on the continent if you had the ability or the capability to challenge, because that is where innovation is. There is so much opportunity here to innovate. I think there's more opportunity to innovate on the continent than there is to innovate in the UK. That is my personal perception, my perspective. However, it is the fact that I grew up in a culture that enabled me to speak up, although culturally I wasn't able to. So there again was the kind of, I had a little bit of cognitive dissonance where, one side of me wants to do something, however I couldn't because of the context that I'm in. We've been brought up in a way that we can challenge things. And so I think if we can get into an environment, and again, very, very great presentation by Bernard before, where you have an idea, because you have an idea, you should do something or implement a change because you're not happy with something. Whereas here in Ghana, a lot of the times we're not happy with something, but we won't speak up about it. We won't make a change. So we need to move from seeing something as wrong and leaving it as is, but making a change, coming up with an idea, making a change and implementing it. And I think that's the confidence that I got being in the UK, because there is more of an acceptance to challenge. In fact, when I'm in a classroom environment, you are marked on your interactions, you are marked on your challenge, you get points for that. Whereas in the Ghanaian context, it's frowned upon, or from my experience. So I hope that kind of contributes a little bit to the question that you asked, Karley, but that's just a little bit of again, my experience.
Very well said, Lorraine. Thank you very much for establishing the different experiences you've had and culture between the United Kingdom, US, and then Ghana. So I would like to throw this question to Bernard. Yes, so Bernard, Lorraine just talked about the different cultures and how they go a long way to either facilitate or inhibit your progress with regards to implementing sustainable ideas. You have mentioned that growing up, you were a loudmouth, if you would permit me to say that. You always used to express your points, your opinions in class. I mean, you were noted as a talkative, and gladly you've turned out to be a successful broadcast journalist using your talents and then your giftings to be an influence in the mediascape in Ghana, Africa, and the world at large. What would you say or what kind of advice would you give or direction would you give to Ghanaians or Africans who are faced by this challenge? Because we are still facing this challenge. We are still trying to overcome. In schools, there are new disciplines in Montessori schools, for instance. There are new disciplines, new subjects, new activities that are thought to encourage children in school. But there's an imbalance if you look at those in the cities as compared to those in the outskirts. How do you think we can bridge this cultural gap? Because not everybody clearly has the opportunity to education or exposure that will help them grow and facilitate their idea creation and implementation.
All right. Thank you for that question. I appreciate your knowledge about the two of us. I think you're a really great moderator because you have so much information about me. I'm even scared. So you're right. I was in an environment which didn't encourage some of my gifts. Okay. But for me, that's also good because when people try to stifle something that is genuinely your passion, you will find ways of making it grow if it's really a passion. I do understand that in some instances, you can have very toxic environments where because people simply don't trust or believe in what you want to do, you can't do it. So I was more fortunate. My parents were very permissive when it came to what subjects I do in secondary school. They didn't tell me to do science or whatever. They just said, what do you feel like doing? What are you good at? Just do it. All right. So there's a role to be played by parents. And I think that we cannot downplay that role. But the other point, though, is that as I grew up, I realized that it's actually my difference that's important, not my similarity. Now, don't forget that your mind is trained to accept what is familiar and reject what is not. So let me put it this way. Sameness creates comfort. So if we are all wearing a black shirt and I wear a black shirt, I'm fine. So usually when you are going for a wedding and everybody's asking for the wedding color and you go and wear a different color, you feel very strange. So sameness creates comfort. But difference creates reward. Difference creates reward. And I learned that quite early in my life. So for example, when I started hosting the morning show, most morning show hosts had deep voices. Komla Dumo, Kwame Safakai, they were big and bad. They were good looking. I was slim, I was skinny, I didn't have a deep voice. Most of them ran one-man shows. I created a conversation around a team. That's what people remember. So for me, if even people stifle your difference, remember that it's difference that creates reward. Because if somebody wants another communal more, they wouldn't pay for me to come and do it. And I really have to thank my team at City because Samens and the team realized that they have to build a show around Bernard's strengths, not around what the market has been fed. Because sometimes the market may not know that this is possible. So again, Lorraine made some interesting points about know your market. The point in knowing your market is not to conform to it. It's to know how you can benefit from it or even change it, right? So we don't study the world to just leave it the way it is. We study the world to change it. So you can understand the radio market and say, okay, the radio market has not been fed with a conversation of 4 people expressing different ideas. a radical lady, an engineer, a lawyer, and then a normal journalist. So for now, it's safe. They just bring two politicians. So if you study your market well, you can discover the gaps and change it. It's not just study the market and conform to what it says. You can't be innovative like that, right? But I just want to go back to the point. We need mentors who can see the future, parents, mentors, and managers who understand our difference and help us to tilt things towards our difference. I hope this makes sense. And sorry, I keep giving radio examples because I can only give you examples of things I've lived. I'm not telling you, I'm telling you what I've done. And therefore, sorry if all my examples are media biased, but that's me. Thank you, Karley.
Thank you, Bernard, for that answer, that justice to it. And I really appreciate the angle you're coming from, because it's media you are mainly into. But I even want to do a follow-up on that. And Bernard, you are a thought leader, and you have a lot of influence because of the platform you find yourself working on. And as general manager of City TV, City FM, I believe you have spearheaded a lot of initiatives and innovative ideas that have gone a long way to bring development one way or the other. In one of your speeches, I think when you won the Broadcast Journalist of the Year, you had a presentation, and you stated the fact that we need to revisit some of our innovative ideas and initiatives that brought about sustainable development in the country. You made mention of an innovation by the media, which was by the fireside. Sorry to our participants who are not from Ghana, but this is an example from Ghana. So by the fireside was an initiative that brought together children or the youth with an elderly person telling African stories, sharing African folktales. Yes, just to educate the children about our values and our culture. And I believe that this has gone a long way to build some of us. But some of these ideas are no more existent. And we seem to be consuming more of foreign culture, more of foreign media. Do you think the media is playing a positive role in helping us to implement positive and innovative ideas for sustainable development, or does the media need to do more?
Great question, Karley. Thank you. The media obviously is just scratching the surface, and I'm talking from an African indigenous media perspective. Now, if you look at what is happening globally, China is trying to establish media presence in Africa, because they realize that the dominance of the West is not just military dominance or financial dominance, it's also cultural and ideational, right? So now Africans are being given scholarship to go study PhDs in China. Journalists are being supported to tell the China story. Now, I think that in a lot of our development frameworks, we focus on the hardware of development. So the external visible things. And we forget about the software of development, the way people think. And that's where I think the media in Africa has a long way to go. I believe that first thing is that the right investment is not being made in media. And therefore, we are not showing people the success stories. So for example, I was at Ashesi University a few months ago in something they call the Ghana Climate Innovation Project. 20 brilliant young Africans who have new ideas that they are implementing and scaling rapidly. Now, a lot of these people are not seen in the way they ought to be on normal African television. A lot of people, when they see success, they see it through a movie, which is a foreign movie. So we are not telling people what they can do, and we are not letting them see success that looks like them. It's very important that even for a small radio station like us, we can serialize those 20 stories for young Ghanaians on their way to work to hear that somebody has moved back to the north, created a company called Zako. He's used charcoal, more climate-friendly charcoal. Somebody's created a company called Luworks, providing affordable toilets for people in rural communities. Somebody's converting plastics to pavement blocks, solving unemployment at the same time, paving our roads, and also saving the environment at the same time. So the point is, the media's job in every development context is to help people think the right way about themselves. And I think there's a lot of, I don't want to, for example, I was watching a Nigerian TV station during the NSAS, and they were doing very good work. But even when you listen to some of their presenters, they all sounded British. So it's almost like you have to have studied or lived in Britain to qualify to present a show on that station. And it's not as if I'm criticizing somebody else, but trust me, you don't have to sound British or American to be smart or original. Okay. So, and these are subtle things we tell people when, look, a lot of kids listen to my show and I speak the way I speak because I want them to know that you don't have to be Western to be intelligent. And the media is failing in that sense. We are depicting, we are mimicking. I mean, we are mimicking cultures. Okay. And we are not, and which is why Nollywood does a great job, because they are letting you know that something in an African context can also be wholesome and funny. So, Karley, the media's role in Africa for me is my passion. It's a big job. So whilst Lorraine and co are bringing ideas together, raising venture capital, if young people don't believe they deserve better, they're not going to bring those ideas to the fore. And how can they believe they deserve better? It's what you show them every day. So we are the software of development. And it's a very crucial thing that young people are told the right story, to have the right mindset about themselves. Otherwise, development will be a journey we can never embark on. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Bernard, for those submissions. I believe that the media has more to do, and we have to take advantage of all the lessons that have been drawn from mentors like you in the media space to improve upon our delivery. All right, so now to you, Lorraine. Lorraine, you spoke about public-private partnerships, PPPs. Yes, you, besides being a director with the UBS, you're also a business leader, you're an entrepreneur, doing very well, at least to the best of my knowledge in our space. I would like to know if you've been able to take advantage of public-private partnerships. How easy was it? And can you tell us how we can also take advantage of such partnerships to implement innovative ideas for sustainable development?
Thank you, Karley. It's a great question. In the vanilla form of a PPP or public-private partnership, just for those people that are not familiar with the term, just to be clear, this is, I mean, in simple terms, it is partnering, you as a private individual or a private company, it is partnering with a governmental institution or a public institution to do some kind of joint venture. So that's just for those people that are not familiar with that terminology. Now, I personally have not executed one in a vanilla stand or the vanilla form. But what you can do, I mean, other flavors of it, maybe right now there was actually a grant or a fund that the UK government launched for innovations that were relating to areas for improvement on the continent in Africa. I think it was called Innovate UK or something like that. And so the government had put up this amazing fund, and I heard about it through Ghanaian counterparts and Ghanaian friends that had said, look, there are opportunities where companies could come together, and the way that the criteria was that it has to be a UK company and a company on the African continent coming together to submit an application for this Innovate UK fund. So there are opportunities like this that exist where you can get government subsidies or governmental grants to help fund your initiative. So some of the initiatives that Bernard mentioned with people at SSU University, if these are innovations that solve issues that are on that list of things, you can potentially get that funding. And I mean, in the vanilla form, it may not be a public-private partnership, but you are essentially getting a partnership between two different institutions across two different continents, as well as leveraging governmental funds and public funds. So there are some of those models that I've taken advantage of or looked at. But there are also ways that if you are doing infrastructure projects, there are governmental contracts and bids that you can pitch for. If you had something that you were maybe doing in the manufacturing space or infrastructure or something that actually meets a need, go onto your government's website. The government have a duty to publish the contracts that they are putting out there, and they have to publicize that. So you can bid as a company for some of these contracts. Now, I know there's a lot of corruption going on, and some people that will give these bids to, other people through the back door, or whatever it may be. But most governments have a duty to publish this information. So have a look on your governmental website, contact your public authorities, and see if you are solving a need, if it's recycling plastics or if it's doing something with coal or whatever it may be. You can certainly look out and see, are there any contracts available for you to bid for? You put up a proposal, you apply for that, and you may be able to get onto a joint venture with a public institution. So I hope that answers your question, Karley.
And yes, you have answered my question, Lorraine. I think that information is very relevant to all of us, especially as youth of Africa who are seeking opportunities to translate our ideas into successful stories. So thank you for that, Lorraine. And so I would entreat all of us to look out there for opportunities on government's website, what have you, and take advantage of them. But Lorraine, you rightly put it, you mentioned somewhere that there's a lot of corruption, and sometimes it's difficult to penetrate and get through with your ideas. And I know you as a very forceful person, and fortunately, because of your background, you may be networked one way or the other to push your ideas out there. But some people are very limited, and because of where they find themselves or where they're coming from, limitations, cultural, political, what have you. What message do you have for such a person? How do you push through the little ideas you have that you feel can make an impact when there are obviously so many limitations and obstacles?
It's a very interesting question, and one that if I knew the answer, I think we wouldn't be in the situation that we're in Africa right now. But my little contribution would be that I would not encourage anyone to stop. Continue pushing and fighting and being forceful. And it is your product that will speak volumes to you. So once you've implemented something and you're not getting the right governmental support or what have you, or you're not getting out to the right network, build something within your context. Start promoting that within your environment. I remember I was mentoring a lady from Assesha University, and she developed a product from the university with some of her colleagues. And this is, for me, it was a fantastic product, but she struggled to get the support from other areas. You just need to tell one person, then you'll tell another person. You'll share the ideas, you'll present, you'll maybe attend a webinar, present your idea, pitch it at an event. There are so many different pitch events going on right now as well. So the more people, the more eyes that get onto you or see your product, or the more traction you get, unfortunately it's chicken and egg, but that is how it ends up working. People then start to support you. It's very hard sometimes for people to support you from the early stage when they haven't seen anything. You haven't built an MVP, a minimal viable product. But until you can show you've done something, and that can speak volumes on your behalf. Now, your question, I know, is a lot broader and a lot deeper than that, Karley, when it comes to governmental institutions and corruption. I don't think I am well versed enough, or rather at liberty to, as I said, it's such a deep and multifaceted question that if I knew the answers to that, we will be able to solve the issue. But it's something that my little contribution, if we continue to push through and fight through and don't give up, that would go a long way.
Indeed, not giving up would help you go a long way. Thank you very much for that definite answer you left us with. All right, so I'll move over to Bernard. Yes, there's a question from Richmond Diafa. Richmond Diafa says, Bernard, thank you very much for the update. Don't you think it's difficult to refuse the status quo in Africa, especially since our predecessors did not encourage innovation? How do you do that without offending the system? That's from Richmond.
My question to Richmond is, why don't you want to offend the system? I mean, if have you signed any contract with the system that you don't want to offend it? This is the system that is oppressing you. This is the system that is keeping you down. So you can't do it without offending the system. What you need is a good plan and a good reason. Okay. I mean, somebody told me yesterday that your mind does exactly what it thinks you want it to do. So sometimes you need to change what you tell your mind. And the person also said to me yesterday that your mind likes what is familiar. That's why routines and habits are difficult to break. That's why, in a very sad way, if you go to many countries, the poorest people, the people who are most oppressed by a system, are the ones who actually empower the oppressor, because they've been trained to believe that this is what they deserve. This is actually normal thing for them to believe. So even if you look at countries where they have dictators, some of the people who really love the dictator are the poorest people. And it's the same thing. So Richmond, I really don't think it's about, look, all of us will die one day. You just need to decide what is worth dying for. And that's both not literal and figurative. What I'm saying is that you have to live for something that you believe in. You have only one life to live. You can't waste it making everybody happy. The key thing is to qualify whose pleasure means a lot to you. I'm a journalist. I interview people. I criticize people. Sometimes I'm very hard on people. I can't be a journalist everybody likes. Okay? So I have to decide whose anger or whose disapproval is worth my time. So for me, it's that straightforward. So it's not about not offending the system. It's about having a reason bigger than yourself, so that even if you are seen to be some sort of non-conformist, you don't want to be a rebel without a cause, right? You want to be somebody who disagrees, but you have a plan that implements, not just some rabble-rouser, no, but someone who can link up with like-minded people to make a lasting change. So forget about the issue of not annoying the system. That's bound to happen. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Bernard. Richmond, I hope you've been answered. All right, so the next question is from Andrews. His question is, have African governments been innovative enough? If not, how can African youth make them responsible or up to task? And that's for Bernard as well.
That's such a big question. There are 52 African countries. I get your question. Okay, you know, Lorraine made some points about the continent and the age profile, which I think are very important points. The youngest African country, I think, is Uganda. The last time I checked, the average Ugandan is about 19 years old. There's a huge gap between the average age of Africans and the average age of African cabinets, right? So you'd go to like some of these African countries and the youngest minister is like 50 years or so, like a young man at 50. Okay, so some of the things we need to do is to identify young winners and propel them. Now, youthfulness is not just age. It's whether you want to move on or stay with the status quo. So I've met 55, 60-year-old people who are very young, and I've met like 28, 29-year-olds who are too invested in the status quo. What you want is to get people in responsible position who believe in a better world. And this is not just politics. right? So it can be local government, it can be business, it can be media, it can be whatever. Look, so this is what I do. I find people who think the way I want the world to go, and I amplify their work with my media. That because I'm a journalist. So maybe you're a businessman, you have millions of dollars, you can support their business. So that's how we can change. Because as for African leaders and whether they're innovative or not, the political system is not meant for innovative people. And the way government is structured, governments are some of the slowest, most inefficient beasts in the world. So look, I think that the real issue there is how do we get the right thinking people to be in places of influence, politics, business, religion, media, which is why programs like these are important. Network, link up with people, find out what people are doing in Nigeria, cross-fertilize ideas, copy what works and implement it. If we do that enough, if the last point I'll make is when the citizens grow in their thinking and their desires, the kind of person qualified to lead them has to change. So sometimes the leader represents what all of us are. It's not always true, but if citizens desire for more, the caliber of person qualifies to lead them has to change to meet the level of the hunger. So that will be my answer. The leaders are not as innovative as they ought to be, but I think we still have power to change that.
Very well said. Thank you for that insightful answer. Now there's a next question and it goes to Lorraine. It says, Lorraine, how can Africans live innovatively or become innovative without access to the internet?
Wow. Yeah, good question. So one of the biggest issues that exists across the continent is access to data. When I talk about data, I'm talking about data in the sense of the raw form of information, but there's also access to data in the sense of, internet. However, rapidly, there's 50% penetration of mobile phones and access to internet at the moment across the continent, and that's growing. But I think innovation doesn't necessarily have to link to the internet. It could link to the fact that you have there are food security issues that exist in your domain or in your village or in your township. Look around. Not many people have access to food. Is there a reason for that? Is that because the road is so bad, so that the trucks that are coming with food can't get there, or whatever it may be? I don't know what the context may be. So I think that innovation can exist, dare I say it, without the internet. However, it could be a little bit slower because you might not have access to certain information that you need to have access to in order to amplify the work that you're doing. That is something that I know there are many institutions working on to increase penetration of internet across the continent. I do think, however, we live in a society where, you can find another person maybe that might have potential access to the internet or something like that. So again, it's not a very simple, and this is quite a challenging answer, a simple question. Sorry, it's not a very simple question to answer. But I do know there's progress being made in that arena. But I do think that innovation can exist. You can look around, you can find ways and means to innovate. I remember, for those people that are in Ghana, you might be aware of someone called Denta, who, again, she's a media personality. She does very well on shining the light on certain people that are innovating. And these are people that might not even have access to the internet, so they didn't even promote themselves. I remember one time she posted on her profile a 15-year-old boy that had built a car. That no one knew about him until Denta shone her light on him. So he didn't have access to internet, but yet he's building and innovating a car out of material that is around him. You know, so innovation can happen, but I admit, in order to amplify your work for people to know about you, there is a long way for Africa to get to in order for us to start to make sure that internet is widely penetrated across the continent.
Thank you, Lorraine, again for that answer. Now I'll take another question. This is from Isaac Ofori, sorry. As we seem to create sustainability while leaving behind persons with disability, do you think we can achieve this without carrying everyone along? That question is to Bernard, and he's saying in effect that can we achieve sustainable development while we leave the disabled behind? Sorry.
Thank you for the question. We can't. If you look a bit about history, development has always been about giving more opportunity to marginalized groups. So whether it's civil rights, Black people voting in America, or women voting, or recognizing disabled people, or even people of a certain alternative lifestyle, you notice that once you marginalize one group, you lose the benefit they bring. So a lot of times people see these things like, oh, let's give disabled people the chance so that they can also be helped. But it's more what we lose from not including them. So affirmative action doesn't just mean helping women to get to be on the screen. It's actually helping society to benefit from the wisdom they have. So society must think about what it loses by not including and empowering these different groups, whether they are disabled or whatever. That's the way I choose to see, because God put all of us here with different skills and talents. So if you leave one whole group out just because they don't look or behave or act like you, you're going to be in real trouble. So I think you can't achieve sustainable development because look, the first time I entered a bank in the UK, this is like 11, 12 years ago, the guy who was serving me at the counter had only one arm, right? And I had never seen a one-armed person working in a Ghanaian bank. Okay, and this guy was brilliant. He was doing everything. I mean, I'm sure he didn't even think for 1 minute that, oh, I have only one arm, right? But yeah, I was from Ghana. It's like, hey, this guy, what is he doing here? Why is he talking plenty? It's like, ooh. So sometimes it's not just empowering them, but deliberately putting them in the front so you can see them. So if I seeing this guy working in a bank in a nice shirt with only one arm, tells me that with two arms I can do too much, and the one with one arm can also do the same and more. So it's something the society should think differently about. So I agree with you. If we leave any group behind, we're not going to get the best that we have. Thank you.
For that answer. Thank you, Bernard, for that answer. I realized recently the president has appointed one of the ministers, is it Accra East or somewhere?
OT region.
OT region, yes.
Yeah.
OT region.
It's a disabled
person. So I believe that we are doing well. It's quite picking up. Yes. And so thank you again, Bernard. Now the next question goes to Lorraine. And it's from Sundie Sanjina. The question is, how do we begin to bridge the gaps between African countries among the youth?
Wow. You know, the beauty of Africa is our differences. You know, there's a lot of cultural differences that exist across Africa, which makes it very beautiful and diverse. But I think some of the challenges that exist is because of the lack of unity as well. So in terms of bridging the gap between the African youth is what can we do to facilitate free movements of our youth? What can we do to facilitate better education for them? And those could be educational initiatives that facilitate exchange programs. You know, is there a way for us to get the youth more involved in the political arena so that they can start to make decisions on how they connect with other youth? Are there ways and means that we make sure that in the industry that Bernard is in, that we make sure that the media are putting a spotlight on some of these youths? You know, what kind of conferences can we do? So we now have the free trade policy that's been initiated across Africa, you know, facilitating, you know, a single trade area. You know, is there something that we can do parallel to that concerning the youth, so that youth can kind of share ideas? There is one thing, a program that I was a member of. I was an ambassador for an initiative called One Young World. And what One Young World did is they actually brought individuals across, they had individuals represent every single country from across the world and bring them to a particular place. So this is a huge initiative, and it would go from, you know, they'll hold the event in maybe Colombia or Canada, and I've had the privilege to go to the one in Colombia and in Canada. And they have individuals that represent these countries. And on those platforms, you bring the issues that concern your youth or your culture, or your environment to that platform. And on that platform, there are presidents attending. I remember when the late Kofi Annan was in attendance when I was there, you know, so there are initiatives like this that exist that you can, and I remember, and I went as a representative of the UK, but I remember meeting so many people as representatives of Ghana there, where I was able to then start to communicate with them. And to this day, I remember a friend of mine who's a CEO of one of the most innovative companies in agriculture in Ghana called Farmerline. I remember meeting him there or meeting his colleague there. And that gave us an opportunity in that context to communicate with each other and connect. Now, if someone can do something that replicates that initiative on the continent, that enables us to get sponsors to sponsor individuals that are doing an amazing stuff on the continent, that can represent the countries that we have on the continent and come to one place, you know, every single year to share ideas, to facilitate, to execute on diplomacy, to mediate, to talk about the issues that exist and what we're doing to solve them, it can very much help. Even if you don't physically move, again, in the context that we're living in today with coronavirus, there are ways that we can connect and collaborate. We're doing that right now. I'm sure a lot of you are considered to be youth, and Bernard again has said, you don't have, age doesn't determine your whether or not you're youth or not. So we are on this platform right now. We're listening to each other, we're communicating, there are questions that are coming through. We just need to do more of this, but we need to move from just talk and ideation, but also into implementation. So those are things that we need to do. Those are just my ideas to your question, Karley.
All right. Thank you very much, Lorraine, for addressing that. There's another question from Samuel Ajiman Pepe, and it's directed to Bernard. It says, Bernard, that's impressive. Are you speaking to the issues of attachment and internships while in school? In which ways do you think your academic grades, for instance, can affect your performance as an intern on a campus radio station such as Radio University here in Accra, Ghana, University of Ghana, and add to your academic grades? Yeah, so I think in effect he's asking for how best your academic performance can affect your internship or your extracurricular activities and vice versa, and linking that to being innovative. Yes, I think that that's what he's trying to establish.
Thank you. So I think that the question assumes that academic work is almost like the main thing. And I agree that you need an academic qualification to get into a lot of jobs. But what you actually need is a strength, a competence. Now, a competence or a strength is a combination of talent plus knowledge plus skill. All right, so talent is important, but knowledge is great. Knowledge is what you acquire from the university or wherever you go. But you also need skills and experience. So for me, on Radio University, I studied economics. I got a first class by the grace of God. But when I was recruited at City FM, it was, of course, because I studied economics, but because I also had 4 years of radio experience. But the most important factor in my rise at City was not the first class in the economics. It was the knowledge of 4 years of radio practice, combining that with being a student leader, trying to get a first class, doing all kinds of crazy things at the same time. So it made me a very it toughened me. So I was able to survive in a real world because I had lived a real world. I had to read the news at midday every day whilst I was going for lectures. I had a show 5 days a week, sometimes 6 days a week. So the world we are getting into, the degree is great, the first class is fine. It could get you a job, but you still suck at the job if you don't know how to manage empathy, complexity. You don't know how to, you get me? So try and train yourself in the experience side. So even if the course is teaching you how to analyze, and all, those things are all nice. Doing Excel is great. I like it. But there are aspects of you that has to develop, and you can only develop those aspects when you do an internship, or you are teaching somebody classes, or you are an executive in a group or something. You know, those are the things that they approximate better to real life. So give yourself a balanced education. Even if nobody will give you an internship, go and teach in some public school, even if they'll give you 20 Ghana cedis or whatever. Learn how to manage difficulty in a different context. So when you get a job, my first job, I was selling books and I was getting an 8% commission on selling books. I walked all over Accra selling those books. What has that got to do with journalism? I don't know. We have a sales office now. So when my sales guys go out, I know what they go through. And I learned to deal with rejection. When you go to 20 schools and only one says yes, it's an important part of my development. So you need more of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bernard, for doing justice to that question. I'll move on quickly to the next one. It's from Justice Aban. And he says, hello, I'm Justice Aban. I would like to ask if you run mentorship programs for young adolescents. I think that's to IFED Global. IFED Global has several platforms, one of which is International Youth Diplomacy Conference, which is happening this year, July 20th to 24th. Of July, and provides the platforms for you to network with several mentors. I would say that Lorraine has a mentorship platform. You can visit her website and you can get in touch with her to mentor you. Bernard, I know, is a director of iJournal, which creates the opportunity for youth to become citizen journalists, training them with the adequate skills needed. So I hope that has addressed that question. The next one is from Isaac Ofori. Again, Isaac says, I'm developing a system which is going to bridge communications gap between persons with hearing disabilities and the general public, which is to create accessibility first in Africa. I would love to get the speakers' numbers to give them more advice and inform them about my innovation. So I guess we'll handle that after this. Well done, Isaac. Now, an anonymous attendee says, I need deep clarification of the below quote. It says, Africa's future depends on minds, not minds. Africa's future depends on minds, not minds. I guess I'll hand that over to Bernard, since Lorraine just spoke.
No, I didn't say that. It was Lorraine who said that.
Yeah, I referenced the quote. So Africa is known for one of the largest industries across Africa is the mining industry. Now, mining is to mine commodities, whether it's gold, whether it's whatever it may be, right? Now, that is there is a mentality that Africa is dependent on its rich resources, which absolutely it is, you know, and commodities that exist. However, that is not sustainable. You can mine and then everything is gone. But it's our minds that will make us be innovative and will make us be sustainable. So our future is dependent on how we'll be able to innovate and think about things differently in order for us. So let's not think about the commodity, but let's think about how we're able to innovate and use and leverage our brains, our minds to think about more things. So I hope that clarifies it. We're known for commodities, we're known for mining, right? As a continent in its whole. It might not necessarily be your country, but as a whole, mining is a huge industry across Africa. And it's known for commodities. Africa is known for the commodities, the rich resources that we have. But if we continue with that, those things are those things they will one day end. You will mind and they will one day, be finished. But our minds, the more we start to innovate, the more we start to educate also our youth to think and challenge, is a way that we can keep our future of Africa alive. So I hope that clarifies the question, the statement. That's my understanding of it. It's not my statement. It was on a report that was developed by Deloitte, I think at the World Economic Forum some years ago. But that's my interpretation of that quotation.
All the questions we have, I'll attend to any if I'm prompted or notified any other question. But I would like to attend to a few announcements for our notice. As I indicated earlier, IYDC, that's International Youth Diplomacy Conference, happens in July. That's from the 20th to the 24th of July 2021 here in Accra, Ghana. All things being equal without COVID, we will be able to host this conference and have you all in Accra, Ghana. And our payment modes are up. If you have to register for the conference and make your payments, you can do this via the IYDC website. That is www.youthdiplomacyconference.org, and follow all the instructions to make your payments. Thank you very much. Now, one final question for Bernard. Bernard, I would like to find out, do you think that our ideas as Africans are ideas that are able to stand the test of time, given several factors, socioeconomic factors, as well as cultural factors? Dr. Kwame Nkrumah had a 7-year-long plan. He implemented some of his ideas, Temamoto Way, a lot of factories in several parts of Ghana, and he went on further to say that the independence of Ghana is meaningless until it's linked with the total liberation of Africa. Do you think that our ideas as Africans, you can start from Ghana and zoom into Africa? Do you think our ideas do stand the test of time?
So yes, thank you for the question. So I was saying that, look, there are great solutions in Africa which will work for us. Because don't forget what I said initially, discomfort is the birthplace for ideas. And ideas are the starting point for innovation. So the more discomfort you have, the more likely you are to have ideas if you refuse to accept that the discomfort is normal and the way you are feeling is okay. Having said this, I think that we are blessed. Look, let me give you a typical example. We have a lot of unemployed young people in Africa. We don't have legacy systems. So a lot of our systems have to be built from scratch. So it means we can do smart things. So I always tell people, you can use one company or one solution to solve 3 problems. Using the example of refuse, you have rubbish, which is not properly recycled. You have a lot of young people. You can put them to work. You can do recycling. You can even use the waste to create power. You can use the waste to create compost. So you are solving a compost problem for farmers. You are solving a power problem for industry. You are solving an unemployment problem. You are solving a cleanliness problem. You can even use the plastic to make pavement tiles to solve a road problem. We have it. I have no doubt that we have it. We have to just believe in ourselves. And then we have to learn from each other. It's easier to travel from Accra to Paris than it is to travel from Accra to Conakry, Guinea. We have to change that. When we start learning from each other, as Lorraine said, because we are different, then we can really scale and improve our solutions. So for me, I want to end on a positive note. We can do it. Let's learn from each other and let's have confidence. Thank you.
Very much, Bernard, for that answer. Because of time, we would have to. Because of time, we'll have to wrap up very soon. So I'll just take the last few comments and we'll have our closing remarks because we have to end by 5 o'clock. My producer has just given me that notification. So please, this question says, this comment says, I have a passion for being a life coach for young people. Kindly advise me on which kind of company to register. Should I do an NGO or limited liability? And the next one says, hello, good afternoon. The first was from Osei, and this is from Mumundu Jane, sorry. Hello, good afternoon. As a young people of this great continent called Africa, if you want to have the Africa we all want and believe in, we have to work hard on it and transform the continent. We need to be independent and we need to change our mindset. So that is from Mumundu Jane from the chat room. All right, so just quickly before we wrap up, I would like to take our closing remarks from our speakers, and then we take our last set of announcements and wrap up. So over to you, Lorraine and Bernard.
I think Lorraine will go first.
Sorry, it's difficult because I think we get muted and can't unmute ourselves again. But yeah, so finally, I'd like to say thank you to the team for inviting me to be on this platform. But my closing remarks is really that, you know, for us to build a better future, we need to continue to innovate. On this platform, I'm sure there's a number of youth that are here. We are known, as I said, and we discussed it before, culturally, we are expected not to challenge our authority. But my urge to everyone is to leverage the various platforms we have available to us to make your voice heard, to make your innovation known. With the era that we're living in right now of user-generated content, there is so many different opportunities out there to make sure that your innovation will be known and heard. So my urge to everyone on the line is don't just come up with the innovative idea, but find ways and means to implement it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine. And Karley, my closing comments: embrace discontent. Let the problems that you see motivate you to do better. Let's not despair because things are not going well. Let's be grateful for the wilderness experience, because that's the birthplace for new ideas. So we are gifted, as she said. The future is in our mind with a D, not our minds. So let's shape our minds, let's talk to each other, and let's make the continent a better place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Bernard, Koku, Avle. We appreciate your time spent with us. It's been a time very, very, very worthwhile. We've learned a lot. You've thrown more insight to the discussion, our area of discussion, which was generating innovative ideas for sustainable development. I believe that the way forward is for us to have courage and to go the extra mile, to be unsatisfied with our current situation, and make the best out of every opportunity we have. My name is Karley Mettle. I have been your moderator for this session, and it's been great having you all our participants from all over Africa. Thank you for coming on board. Next month, that is the month of February, we're going to have another session and we hope to have you all. IYDC comes off All Things Being Equal in July 2021 from the 20th to 24th. Up next, we have an advert to throw more light about what IYDC does. Please stay tuned. Thank you.
I'm very happy to be here in the conference. I think that this is a huge initiative, and it certainly stands side by side with the Israeli initiative to empower young people, women and men, and to make them the next leading generation of Africa. I saw here wonderful students from all over Africa who wants to be the next generation of diplomats. And I'm very happy, and I'm actually very optimistic, because I think that we need good people, and we certainly need good young people from Africa to lead this work.
I'm Stephanie Sullivan. I'm the United States Ambassador to the Republic of Ghana. It's a great pleasure to participate in the conference this morning and to see all the positive energy of these future global leaders. One of my messages is that the United States and Africa have a solid, enduring partnership and many, many programs to partner with youth from many African countries, including here in Ghana. I shared a bit of African wisdom that I have learned, and that is when the parents take care of their children, when their children's teeth fall out, later the children take care of their parents when the parents' teeth fall out. So we're really counting on the youth to make positive changes in the world that we will all benefit from. And finally, my piece of African wisdom I learned is that the elders can also dance when the youth play the drums. Thank you so much, and success in your conference.
Hey, this is a fantastic conference. I'm here every single year, and there's nothing like it. The diversity, the wisdom, the experience that you get to learn from different people, speakers, and participants from all over the continent. I believe this is the generation that can make Africa what it should be. I love you very much, and I look forward to seeing you in here.
Now, that was a video with endorsements from Ambassador Stephanie Sullivan of the United States of America, as well as Shani Cooper, Her Excellency Shani Cooper of the Ijali High Commission, and Dr. Kofi Osei-Kusi, who is a motivational speaker, entrepreneur, and author of several books. And so once you've seen this, I believe that you know IYDC is the best place for you to be in July 2021, from the 20th to the 24th. The place you should be in is Accra, Ghana, University of Ghana campus. Visit our website, www.youthdiplomacyconference.org. Follow us on our social media handles, IFED Global, on Facebook, on Instagram, Twitter, and follow us for updates. Please make sure that you get in touch with our office if you need any assistance, and you'll definitely be attended to. Thank you very much for tuning in. My name is Karley Mettle Tutu. I have been your moderator for this great webinar session. See you in February, and thank you very much. Please, if you have not submitted your details for your certificates, do ensure that you send it to our email, and we will provide you your certificate when it's ready. Thank you very much for joining us. Stay blessed. Have a great weekend. Bye from us.